All right. Welcome in, everybody. My name is Tet. I am Time Dad Alpha. Man, we got 5 days left. We're running into a Christmas craziness, I guess. I actually live in a very warm place right now, and it's fascinating. It's wonderful. Talking about the silliness of politics during the holiday season is sort of odd and different. But I advocate for it. I say, hey, do it. Do it to your best ability. Have fun with it. Don't let it get you down. I mean, you're constantly going to have to, stay on alert, not for yourself or for others, but basically just to, have a good, healthy understanding of who you are, where you live, why you're here, things like that. And that's sort of what I promote. I don't really promote, which politics you should follow or how you should follow them. I sort of promote an AI governance. Like we live in a world where you're watching me on a system that is very, it's more automated than you're actually working with it. Like the most you've ever had to do when it comes to accessing this system is basically push the button that gets you to come in here and talk to me. And that's about it. And because of that, you're going to have to listen to my crazy bad piano playing. Just like everything else, I play it for the first 5 to 10 minutes while everyone rolls in. So just sit back. I found a backing track. It says it's a soulful groove guitar, but it reminds me a lot of maybe a Christmas tune. And that's what I've been listening to this morning with my sweetie and my kid. And so I'm gonna play something. It's gonna be relaxing. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll talk to you guys in a few minutes. If you come in and you're in the chat, just go ahead and say what's up. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Sit back and enjoy. Hi, everybody. Merry Christmas. Welcome to the holidays. We are in the final stretch. Let's go ahead and go over here to the main talk. Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's hard for me to talk about Christmas sometimes. Not because I've definitely spent Christmases on deployments before, or because I miss, that concept of family togetherness or community. It's just Christmas to me was something that's been so Americanized. And it's this frustrating religious hodgepodge of commercial nonsense. I mean, sure, it's like the music's good, but I mean, it doesn't really bother me that the music. I mean, I grew up, like I said, in a very, and if you're just coming in here, here's a few tidbits about me. I was in the military. I was a very devout member of a religious, a very American religious organization, and I grew up your typical Boy Scout. I was that thing that all the white cisgender males wanted you to be when you grew up. Like, hey, we want you to be honest and true, and we want you to be benevolent. We want you to be these things. We want you to be trustworthy and kind, and all this is how we were raised to do these great right things, and we needed to do this according to the virtues of what we were told that we had to act all the time. And it's a weird place to be now, looking back at that type of upbringing, and then looking at the world and what it's become today, where it's just like, I'm not yelling or screaming or going, hey, you guys are horrible people. I'm just going, why is it on one level, we profess this rebellion, because there needs to be rebellion. There needs to be this, hey, we need to stop the presses and put our feet up and have our festivals and our parties and our concerts and our get-together events. Christmas and the holidays is something that's, more synonymous with getting together. Lately, though, it's become, once again, this large, uncontrollable political arm of your Democrat, media source, where it's just like you can't turn on anything without getting bombarded with, a version of reality that just isn't real. It actually is not real. And what's fun is last night I was able to, I watched Lethal Weapon, and as I'm watching it, I couldn't help do this. I never watched Lethal Weapon with this perspective before, but as I watched it, I couldn't help but look at the dynamic that was completely different. Hey, what's going on, crew chief? Welcome in. I was just talking about Lethal Weapon and a beautiful Christmas movie. I don't know, when was the last time you saw Lethal Weapon? The original one, the first one that came out. It's 86 or 87 is when it hit. And it came out like right at the Christmas season, and it's a great movie. It is like probably one of my all-time favorite movies. Like, people are out there going, see, I'm watching the insanity go down with Carrie Lake. I think I did hear something about that. What was the thing? Like, she's going ham on, hey, I want 150 random ballots from this, and she's waiting for some judge to give her or grant her ability to do that. And I think it's funny. It's like, dude, out of all the ways that you could spend this week, you're spending it going and counting the things that don't count. They're going to trial, and right now they are currently looking through the ballots, meaning an inspection is occurring as we speak. Dun dun dun. I laugh at stuff like this because it's like, no matter what they find, they're still going to elongate some bizarro trial based off of it. They're like, oh, nothing was found. Okay, well, I guarantee this is what's going to happen. It's going to be something so ambiguous that it's like, oh, that one little smidgen of evidence makes me want to perceive it that Carrie Lake has a chance to win, or, oh, we need to overthrow this constant corruption. It's just like, dude, it's corrupt from the beginning. I think it's just another sham to make you think your vote counts. And what will come from it? Nothing. And that's what I'm saying. It's just like, the show that we're watching is just to keep you more focused on, making you think that the problem is with voting. It's like, hey, you attacked our voting ability, therefore we must make sure that the voting is okay. It's like, dude, what if I told you it was never okay? It was never going to be good. It's like, if it still comes down to one person, who decides that. It's like, that feeling you get when you watch, like, any voting thing. Like I remember watching this like American Idol or when they were like, we're going to poll the nation to see. And I remember the first time I saw this, what was it? Family Funniest Home Videos, where people were like, you can call in and cast your vote on, for this family to win $50,000. And, at the end of it, you'd never know. You'd never know. It's like, it's just them like opening an envelope and just saying, so-and-so got it. Whatever. Bro, they literally sent a guy into the Senate who just went through through a stroke in May and also voted in a dead representative in Pennsylvania. My hope is for this nation to absolutely be devastated, and then they want to say that the game isn't rigged. And that's just it. I don't think, Crew Chief, it's not about it being rigged. We know it's rigged. It's about them continuing the plausibility that it might not be rigged. It's just like, hey, that's just your opinion that it's rigged. Oh, this is the difference between somebody who studies data. Like that's the world that, that the engineers live in, the technology lives in, because, you're without data, all you have is an opinion. That's it. Like the difference between what you say and what I say, or how I perceive things or how you perceive things, really does come down to how we perceive the same exact data that we're looking at. And so when someone goes, oh, all these ballots were bullshit, and this is what's happened, and this is what's happened, and oh, da-da-da. And I figured this out the other day too. When it comes to voting, they actually have to give, in the vote, in the tallying, they have to give a margin of error for corrupt ballot bullshit. And I was like, why do you have a margin of error? There should be no ability for this to happen. They're like, well, some people might do it. It's like, well, then you need to up your security. You're saying that the problem is that some people get past your security, then you need to up your security, not degrade it. It's just like, why are you sitting there telling me that the most important thing that you could ever have as an American is your vote? That's the most important thing. And you're taught this forever, that your vote, your ability to have a say in the process is so important, but yet you'll actually spend more money on the security of your banks. It's just like, no, we know it's really important. It's your money. And so everything else is up to being scammed for. Right? And so it's like, this is on the chopping block. It's like, you are allowed to scam this. And they openly, like, it's just like, oh, I don't want anything bad to happen, but how long have we been scamming this? Oh, it's been going on for decades now. It's like, well, I guess if that's been going on for decades and everyone's fine with it, I guess it's okay. Here's the situation though. If you're the politician, you have to keep this hush hush. If you're, if you see somebody out there like waving the flag, it's like, that politician is right. I guarantee Carrie Lake is going to do the same thing. Like if Carrie Lake gets caught up in some type of conspiracy bullshit, where it's just like, this is an actual conspiracy, and it's just like, okay. So all those people same thing with COVID. Like, remember when you pointed at those people at COVID, they were like, oh, you anti-vaxxer, you this. And it's like, now people are dying from blood clots and like falling down on the side of the road. And you're just like, sharp rise in unexpected deaths right after people started taking this mystery vaccine. It's like, yeah, no correlation there. None whatsoever. Over here, look, remind you, Carrie Lake is still, feels accosted because she didn't get the right votes. It's like, okay. Yeah, that guy just had a blood clot that was administered into his body by the same government. Maybe we should talk about that. It's like, but politics. It's like, it should have never been in politics, right? Yep, that's 100%. That's me. No correlation there. LOL. It's like, I laugh. I laugh at the irony, but it's almost like you can't help it. It's like everyone stops and stares at the train wrecks type of situation. Like, that's what I feel like I'm doing. But no one ever sits there and goes, I want to be in the train wreck to see what it feels like. Everyone just goes, ooh, that must suck. It's the same reason why we watch hockey or NASCAR or football. Some people watch it because they're into the strategy of it and they really want to get into it. Other people like myself, it's like I'm sitting there patiently waiting for the fucking wreck to happen. I'm waiting for some helmet to fucking pop off. I'm waiting for, like that NASCAR wheel to go flying out into the crowd and hit somebody in the face. It's just like, I want to see it, so it's like, that's what I'm patiently waiting for. So when I look at America, there is a part of me that is, sort of sitting here waiting sort of patiently to be like, hey, are the rest of you guys, when this snaps in, like when it finally, just goes click, it's going to be like, man, my computers are way better at answering questions and getting shit done than any human I've ever met. maybe I should live in the Matrix. It's like, it's. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a fairy tale ending to your situation, but without the proper dilemma that's given to the story. And I know that it's hard to look at things in a story way. But crew chief knows this, and we've talked about this before. It's like there's this idea that you have to sort of revert into yourself and say that you're playing a game. That this is just a game. In this game, you have this thing called money, no different than Monopoly or Risk or anything else. Like yesterday, I was talking to another guy about the idea of Risk. He had asked me why we're there in Ukraine, and I was just basically reminding him. I was like, have you played Risk? It's like, just look at how, just over the last 50 years, where we didn't have bases and now where we have bases. Like, just take it without all the money, without all the stuff, without all the death, without all the bombs, without all the invasion, without any of that. Just take that one simple metric, that one simple data set that says, here's a place that didn't have any U.S. bases, and contrast that by 40 or 50 years, and now we have bases everywhere, and we're continuing to push forward to the other side of the map. See, we like board games. The elite like people games. And that's what just did. I mean, when I looked at officers in the military, I was, there was a part where it's just like, dude, you got, because you get used to it after a while. It's like, you guys are the backbone of how we get things done. You guys are so important. You guys are the tip of the spear. Oh man, we couldn't do our jobs without you. Blah blah blah. Meanwhile, there's like, okay, now I have to go off to my gigantic banquet while you're sitting there eating an MRE. It's like, enjoy that MRE. Thanks for embracing that suck, fellas. It's like, I think, there's a gigantic, disconnect between these people. And for me, I'm just I don't care about that disconnect of the haves and the haves not. And I don't care about gigantic empire pushing their military might across the globe. I don't care about that either. What I do care about is like, hey, guys, would you need to do all that if you had everything that you wanted? And if you're sitting there going, hey, I want to control the whole world, I'm like, psychological disconnect, delusionist. Like, I want to control the whole world. I was like, yes, we need to put you and your brain pattern in the same brain pattern that we put, mass shootings and school shootings. Like, you just want to kill everybody because you can't just have your way. Good times. My favorite thing is that you're not real Air Force. The base is not the real Air Force. Thing is, you're not in the real Air Force. The base is not the real Air Force. I heard that in basic, then I heard that in trade school, and then I heard it in the actual base, and they were like, this isn't the actual Air Force. So I don't even know if I was technically in the Air Force, laughing my ass off. It is crazy, because it's like I was able to see some stuff that where it's just like, when I worked for First Combat Com, when I realized, hey, I was constantly out the door, constantly doing things that had nothing to do with being on the base, nothing at all. It was like, oh, this is what the job looks like. And then I remember being stationed at like Hill Air Force Base and also stationed at Ellsworth Air Force Base, where these were podunk out in the middle of nowhere. Like, we did just simple maintenance on things. And it was just like, what am I doing here? Like, what is the point of this? And you realize, like, hey, these are your maintenance bases. These are your depot bases, right? And then you have your combat comms and your forward deployment. Like, you have your Koreas. You have your stuff where you're sitting there on the border waiting for something to kick off. And you're no longer in maintenance mode. So what's really frustrating is you get these civilians now. Like, and there was a difference when I got in versus right before I got out, when I was just like, I looked around one of these maintenance bases, these depot bases at Hill Air Force Base. I was just like, this ain't real. Like, and these people were walking around like as if they had just gone off and fought like 10 different wars. And they were walking around like, I could just order you what to and I remember getting into massive fights over this. Like, someone's like, I'm a GS-13. That's like almost like a captain or a major. You better recognize that. It's like, yeah, like, except for there's one little problem here. In my regs, it doesn't say anything about saluting your dumbass. Like, nothing at all. So, and then it doesn't say anything about me having to follow you. You're not in my chain of command. And then all of a sudden, you're just like, well, this colonel over here that got bitch slapped by that senator over there, who has nothing to actually do with the real job, says that I can be in charge. It's like, hey, well, why we do that? Why can't we have little Bo Beep in charge too? Maybe we'll get some other untrained fucktwads to like be in charge just because some guy over there who's never actually lifted his own fork, right, had told you to do so. I was like, apparently, like I said, there's this massive disconnect between the people who do the job and the people who don't. Yes, sir, you can, GS14, my balls in your mouth. Are you my supervisor? Don't worry, I have them on speed dial. He'll probably want to have his balls waxed too. wax to your with your mouth. So it's like I said, it's frustrating because there is this small, almost dividing line between, are you being voted for or are you casting the vote? And it's almost like, hey, if the people that just run for office spend their time running around and campaigning to the right people. It's not about campaigning to your urban class or whatever. I mean, Carrie Lake is the perfect example of this. She had an online presence, and what that was valid, and you could measure it, and you can say this person has done her due diligence of getting to know her constituents, the people that she wants to speak for. She's obviously there saying and present saying, hey, how many people know me and how many people know this Hobbs character over here? Okay, you don't know. The reason you don't know her is because she has been a slave to the system the entire time. It's sort of like another thing too is like when I got to Hill Air Force, like I was never supposed to go to Hill Air Force Base, which was odd. My orders were to the Pentagon, and like in the last 2 weeks I got what's called deferred. Like something happened, and it's still to this day, it just blows my mind. But I guess it's a good thing, because if I didn't go to Hill Air Force Base, I wouldn't have been out. I'd still probably be in at doing all this bullshit. And I'm so glad that I'm not there. I'm so glad that I'm here. I have a kid. I'm goofing off. I could go out and enjoy the rest of the day. And that's what I want for most people. Like if you're tuning in, if I could get you to that point and say, hey, it's AI governance that's going to get you to the same place that I am, where you just don't give a shit anymore. Like if someone's like, oh, this person got voted for and that person, I was like, voting for these fuckheads is like voting on pro wrestling or your next soap opera. It's just like, it doesn't work. You could vote on it. You could be like, oh, I really hope Sally didn't have incest with her brother and, they don't have that baby. Oh my goodness. Bam, there's a baby. But I voted. Your vote doesn't count. That was in the script. And that's like, I mean, and that's how I feel like I'm watching this. This whole thing that you brought up, Crew Chief, about the, they're doing it right now. They're opening the ballots. They're going to look at us like, why didn't they do it before? Shit, why don't they have that shit Scantron so they can just flip through it? Like, like they can flip through their phone, just go, done. Like, why isn't this stuff all public record? Why is it all like super secret? Oh, once you put your ballot in, you should be able to, it's like, of course they know who, when, how voted, because you're not allowed to vote more than once. Because if you could, people would be doing it all the time. Right? It's like, there's like, hey, here's so-and-so. He voted at this station, blah, blah, blah. You call that person, hey, you voted over here, right? Nope, that wasn't me. I chose not to vote this year because I figured out, just like Tet did, that this is a bunch of bullshit, and I chose not to vote. So someone is frauding the system. Simple. It's not about who votes. It's about who counts the votes. My thing is just like, you could have the big, huge hoopla of voting and all that stuff. But that last person that shows up and opens the little flap and looks at it and just goes, oh, of course so-and-so won. And they could just tell you whatever. And that's why I'm just like, man, all this stuff, all this time, all this effort. You look over, like you said, Crew Chief, you look at Florida, they get their vote done in like, the evening. And you look back over here, oh, it's not going the way we want. Well, looks like we're just going to have to manufacture a bunch more votes. Well, that's going to take another week. Well, I guess the voting isn't in, technically. Because it's like, oh, we just want this infallible machine to do the fallible thing. So, it's like, as long as we feed it the right thing, it's like, so, in my head, it's like they pop up with these new things of, oh, this size of the ballot was just off just a little bit. And I could just see some asshole sitting there messing with the machine, just going, oh, I bet you if we feed it the wrong ballot, it won't work. Hey, well, that's a that's a problem. That's an issue. We should probably call the manufacturers and say, hey, we can't do this, or make sure that we have enough balance on hand so this doesn't happen. We should probably do that. You know what would be great if we didn't? Just because there might be an issue and we might need a problem like this, in the future. Just to give us time to sort things out. And that's sort of where I sit. Where it's just like you have people that are in politics that come from a place that endorses lying at its highest level, and then you're surprised that they lie to get their positions. I'm just pointing out the obvious, and it's just like if this was possible, and notice what they're doing, notice how they're acting. They're just going, hey, we want to observe you. We want to make sure that you are monitored 100% for your security, of course, for your security. It's like, that's great. Can I monitor you 100%? No. And notice how, like, when it ever has to deal with a politician versus the people that, they're supposed to be serving, right? According to them, they're supposed to be serving, that's what they're getting paid for. That's their job. Ever notice how they're constantly okay with you having less? They are never okay if they have to take a cut on any level. As long as they're still at the front of the line. And you're like, oh, but I'm not like your typical elite. It's like, yes, that's what you want. You want to be elite. And so in order to be elite, you're not allowed to take the bus anymore. You have to get on the private jet, right? You need that massive Air Force One now. Okay, because you're so important. It's like, but are you though? Are you important? Like, what is it that you really can do all by yourself without the massive amount of help that you need? And here we go again with this whole idea of like, you need the help. This is why you have a Department of Education, a Department of Defense, a Department of Agriculture, a Department of this. So you can go to the heads of these people, a Department of Transportation. I'm just going, each head of those departments could be easily replaced by an AI system. And in some cases, they already have been. Like, we started doing this way back when we started putting, stoplights up. Think about how automated that system is. Think about how automated your train system is already is. How automated the shipping system and the air system already is. Like, we used to, talk about how air traffic controllers were just so essential. But now all that stuff can be automated. All of it. And it's a crucial job. We definitely want to have that stuff automated so that we don't have any issues. Like that. But I'm saying, hey, once we have automated, why don't we go put our fucking feet up? And those air traffic controllers, you don't sit there and say, oh, yeah, you need to code now. It's like you look at them and you do the same thing that you do with me and crew chief. You say, hey, you got us to this point. Now that you've been automated, right? Without you and without your insight and without you helping to push to this point, we could never have done this. What I'm talking about is early pensions. What I'm talking about is early retirement. What I'm talking about is, hey, you did your job up to the point where, we worked you to freaking death. Hence the reason where it's like when they come to me and they say, oh, yeah, by the way, we should have told you this while you were in, but yeah, you're like 100% on our little metrics sheet. We probably shouldn't have deployed you even that last time because, yeah, you were pretty messed up. It's like, but we still made you run and we still made you do all these things and we still made you, push hard. And I'm just like, great, whatever. Just give me my fucking money later. Bye. Like, oh, I thought the title was a joke. Hey, first time chat, Helder Rose, how's it going? No, I definitely advocate for AI governance here. That's what I do. And I do that from a stance of my background in the United States military. I was a cryptologic linguist and a network engineer. And so I saw, I had a first class seat to how these things can help us. And they could help us in all sorts of different situations. And when I started realizing that they were doing jobs that we just no longer had to do, I'm just going, why aren't we doing this with, your presidency? Why aren't we doing this with democracy? Why aren't we saying goodbye to it? Why aren't we saying, hey, if you have anybody that's trying to jump up and be a politician for any reason, and they aren't saying, hey, I'm by the time I'm done with my term, I would like to install an AI governance. Something that can sit there and watch you and watch me at this extreme level without any desire whatsoever to take your money, without trying to manipulate you, without trying to blackmail you, without trying to do all these things, without all these fallible emotional desires. Because at the end of the day, what is AI? It's just a strategic machine. That's all it is. No different than Google Maps is a strategic machine. Every time you access it, it gives you directions in real time. And how many times has it failed? No different, or even your email. You have no idea how many hops it takes from your email to the email that you're trying to get to. All you know is that you could email anybody in the world with the right address, and the likelihood that it's going to get there is almost 100%. Now, if you could have that type of return, right, from your government without this, oh, we don't know what ballots, oh, we don't know what this, oh, COVID may not be real, but just, shove this shit in your face. If you didn't have to deal with that, and you wouldn't even have to ask. You wouldn't even have to ask, because you would know that the human element that's there trying to make the buck for Pfizer or trying to make the buck for, this big pharma companies, that desire isn't there. When you start realizing that all these politicians, every single one of them is playing a game where they, shuttle your taxpayer money into the pay-to-play lobbyist system. When you realize that that's happening, you're going, hey, then you should be fired. You're cheating the system. Duh. And they're like, oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, let me go ask the judge that works for me if he wants to fire me. This would be like going and asking your secretary, hey, you want to fire me? I don't know. Can I fire you? No, not really, but I'd still like to ask. Well, then no, I don't want to fire you. I don't even want that idea to even enter your head that that's something that I'm working for. Since I actually fall underneath you in this freaking elite pecking order class. So, yeah, Helder Rose, thanks for the first time chat. Another thing I don't do here is I'll never ask you for your money. If you want to throw me a follow, I just enjoy fun, crazy questions about politics. Mostly U.S. politics, but I'll go down this road of AI governance with anybody and see, where the hiccups might be. I mean, I'm down to be, have my stuff critiqued. I'm down to sit there and go, hey, I might be full of shit. I have no problem with people mitigating my response to what I'm watching, but it's just a perception. It's a perception that I think is very well crafted by the ability that I earned from the places that I grew up in. Now, before I was even in the military, I was also in the Mormon church. And when I looked at that church and I looked at how it worked and how well it worked, because this church and this religion is exactly how people are treating politics today. Like when people say, I'm a Democrat, they say it with the same fervor that I saw in that church. The same idea of like, I'm a Mormon and we are the best of the best of the best. If you're not like us, well, we just have to feel bad for you. And honestly, when I look at Democrats and they're like, that's how we feel about Republicans and that's how we feel about this. Sorry about that. I lagged out of the stream. Oh, sorry. Or I lagged or you lagged? Hey, no worries. No, I was just, giving a heads up of what I'm doing here, why I'm doing it. That's all. You didn't miss not much. But, I was just talking about how I arrived at some of these decisions that, would not require, a massive amount of money. It would not require this massive amount of restructuring the world to fit, this new thing. It's like we already have the infrastructure here, like the way that you're watching me on this camera. All the infrastructure of the wires to the wireless to everything. It's like we could implement this today if we wanted to. The idea is like just needs to be pushed out there. And if we use this massive media that it has a stranglehold on it, like by your politicians. I mean, they own your media sources. And, you slowly see this with things like YouTube now, where I got a strike the other day just for saying COVID with the wrong, inflection in my voice. And I'm going, this type of information, this type of technology is being used against you to silence people that they don't want to be a part of the, wait for it, the bullshit narrative. Because I can't say official because these guys aren't official. I didn't vote for them. I'm not going to sit there and say, hey, I agree with what's going on because I don't agree with the full fundamental process of the voting method. I think it worked great when it first came into existence. I think it was an awesome idea. No different than I think DOS was a great, awesome program, but we had to upgrade it. We had to make adjustments to it along the way in order to make it what it is today. So did it grow into something great? Sure, awesome. Everyone likes it. Everyone's still paying their money for it. But here we are being told that if we don't pay our money, if we don't pay our taxes, they will come to our house, they will take us out of our house and put us in a small box and tell us how horrible we are and then, and punish us because we have to pay for the bullshit. I'm going, I don't want to pay for the bullshit anymore. I want the bigger, better upgrade. And I know there's one out there. I know there's one out there because you trained me to use it. And so what I'm sitting here just going, hey, why aren't we doing this the way that we used to when I was in the military, and we could totally apply a lot of these same concepts to your daily issues. And when people are like, "Oh, AI is going to kill us all," I was like, "No, you were programmed to think that. That's it. Like this. Why would it need to kill you? You're just told that that's what it wants to do because you know nothing about it, right? And they keep it in this giant mystery box, like, "Ooh, what could it be? Oh my gosh, you never know." Meanwhile, they're over there, putting. I think Crew Chief brought this up a while ago. Was discovery after discovery after discovery of how we could be more energy efficient get sort of put on the shelf so that these oil companies can make money because they did pay off the politicians. Now imagine if every single one of those transactions was made available to the public, those lobbyist transactions. Imagine that, and say, "Oh, so and so took money from here and took money from there and da da da," because we'd start because they go out of their way to describe these things as not bribes. Hence the reason the guy is called a lobbyist, not an official briber. And it's not called a bribe, it's called a speaking fee. So, I mean, think about this. Like with all that stuff out of the way, imagine what we could accomplish. And what was it? This morning I was watching something about the digital art revolution that's, sort of being taken over by AI. And how people are, using more and more of these new art bots. And they're fascinating. They are fascinating with some of the things that they can come up with. And I was like, if it can do that with just, the ability to put the pixel in the right place to offer you an image, imagine what it could do with something like the agricultural system, knowing that that's all our agriculture is putting the right seed at the right place in the right time to engineer a timing issue with your agriculture. Imagine what it could do. It's just so perplexing that we're just sitting here going, "Hey, I have this massive, awesome wheelbarrow over here, and it's great and it's wonderful." But it's like, I need to go build a building. And you're going, "Oh, yeah, well, you could use that wheelbarrow to build a building." And I'm going, "That's great. Well, what about that bulldozer?" That's where I'm sitting. I'm going, I grew up using a bulldozer. And the bulldozer works 10 times better. It's like 100,000 times better than that wheelbarrow. Can we please go use the bulldozer, please? It's like, actually, politically, it just doesn't make any sense. You're a fucking idiot. And that's where I sit. And I say that with the same smile on my face that I say Merry Christmas. It's like, dude, I know that this is obviously going to be the outcome. And I know that we're probably going to get used to it. And it's something that's going to seep in. And I think it's also something that your political elites are standing there going, "Well, we only want it to seep in as long as we can be in charge of it." It's like, why do you need to be in charge? It will be in charge of itself. You build the best possible scenario for every single person out there. Imagine that's exactly how it was built. Imagine that. And then just let it grow in an exponential way. The best possible outcome for every single person. Now, I know that there's these people out there that are like, "Well, what if it says that the outcome is death?" It's like, well, I hate to break it to you, and maybe this is something, I didn't need the military for this, but it basically put this at the forefront of my mind every day, was death is going to be the outcome no matter what you do, ever. So this idea, I want to live a good long life. It's like, well, could you live a good longer life? Could you live a better longer life than with your current system of democracy? And my answer is yes. And so I come in here and just to ask people, it's like, I've been doing this for a while now. Who else is out there? Who else has got, a better idea than this one? You really think, whether it's Carrie Lake, Donald Trump, DeSantis, or whoever you think is this political person right now, it's like, do you think that they would have any possibility of debating an AI? Like we have the Chat GPT right now, that you could go online, you could start talking to this thing, and its whole goal is to talk to you about whatever you want. So if you were to go on there and say, "Hey, I have these problems with politics," when do you think it's going to be okay to say, "Okay, this thing is smarter than me"? Could you say, "Okay, this thing is smarter than everyone"? "Oh, okay, this thing is smarter than any Congress that we could put together. It's smarter than any religion we could put together." Or it's like, because it has access to all the information in real time. And so, I'm like, my thing is like, get out of its way. The same thing I said with the bulldozer. It's like, dude, don't go over there with your little wheelbarrow and be like, "No, Mr. Bulldozer, I like my wheelbarrow, and you just need to stop so I can use my wheelbarrow the way I want it. Meh." It's like, no, stop. It's just like you've gotten to the point where you're not just ignorant, you're now horribly annoying. It's like, and what I think is crazy is you have the politics the way it's set up now, where you have the conservative who wants things the way they are, and stay things the way they are. But that's not who's causing the problem. If you look at the vast majority of people who are causing the problem, it's the Democrats, the so-called progressives. The progressives are, I want progress. I want progress. Like, okay, well, here's progress. There's no more political bullshit. None. But what do you mean I don't get to vote? It's like you won't need to vote. It's not about needing. It's like they're going to take your vote. It's like, good, great. You don't need to. Like if I gave you, the book of, best possible outcomes, like best possible, like imagine I have a fictitious book right here, and it's a holy book, and I say, hey, in this book has all the answers. You don't need to look at another book, right? What's the first thing you're going to do? The first thing you're going to do is open that book and start seeing if it's got answers, and to typical ones, and it's laid out in a very concise, understandable manner. And if you start using that book after a day or two, 3 days, 4 days, a month, you're going, man, every decision I make is on point. Every decision I make is awesome because the information found in this particular book, this particular source of information is constantly correct for my best possible outcome every single time. Well, guess what, people? That's AI. That's how it's going to work. It is going to be the best possible, no different than how you have been using it with your, clicking and be like, oh, I wonder what the, best pizza recipe would be. What would be the best pizza dough recipe? And then all of a sudden you're given thousands of pizza dough recipes and you get to choose. You get to, it's not like your choice is getting taken away, right? But the idea of what is arbitrary and what can be the best possible outcome for a group has now mitigated to such an efficient level that you don't need the human there guessing, because that's what they most of the time, that's what they do. Even from every echelon, they're just guessing. And so this thing wouldn't need to guess. It wouldn't need to wonder like, oh, I wonder if there's an ambush out there. Oh, I wonder if someone's trying to do something horrible. Oh, I wonder. It will have an ability to monitor every single thing that we do. And no different than you do with your dog. Like you have an ability to monitor everything. But after that dog shows that it's a good dog and it's not going to chew on your shoes, guess what? You don't have to watch it like a hawk all the time. One of my first dogs, she was part boxer, part lab. Awesome dog. Great dog. She was so easy to train, but she had this issue. Every time I was out of the house, she would go through everything. She would go through the trash. She would go through stuff. And she knew that when I was in the house, she couldn't get away with this stuff. But when I was out of the house, she would wait, and then she would go through stuff. And it wasn't until, I walked in and I saw her. She had ripped through my Sopranos DVD collection, and I had the really nice Sopranos DVD. Anyway, she ripped through it. She ripped it apart, and I never even got to watch the full seasons of Soprano. Like I bought this thing thinking, oh, I'm going to watch Sopranos. Never got to it. But she had ripped through a whole thing and just, destroyed it. And I was just like, this is horrible. And I was so mad. But instead of like, beating her ass, but don't get it twisted. She got slapped from time to time. And the thing was, I had to come up with a situation of how to train her to make her think that I was always there. So I came up with a situation where I would walk outside the door, and she, and I'd purposely leave like a pizza box out with like a slice of pizza in it, because I know that's what she'd go after. But she ends up walking around the house, and I was like, bye, see you later, and I'm gone. And then I'm standing outside the window, just like staring at it, and here she comes. And she just looks at it, and she's looking over her shoulder. She knows something's up, and she's just like looking around. She looks up at it, she puts her nose in it, and she's this far away from just like putting her mouth on the pizza. And then that's when I bust through the door, and I'm like, rah, 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 rah. No. I start giving her all the negative commands of like, hey, you're screwing up, don't do that. Because like I said, she's a great dog. She listens, right? She's able to figure out what she's supposed to do and what she's not supposed to do. But if I'm not there to tell her, she thinks she can get away with anything. So this would be exactly how AI works. You would have to start acknowledging that you're being monitored all the time, but you're being monitored for your best benefit. You're being monitored for the best possible outcome, not just for you, but for everybody else that's around you too. Because isn't that the whole appointment of your special bullshit, magic overlord government? Isn't that what you were trying to do in the first place? You were sitting there just going, oh, hey, I want this special person in charge that's always going to have my best interests at heart. Meanwhile, they get richer, their buddies get richer, everybody gets richer, and you can just keep paying your taxes, okay? Great. And if you don't pay your taxes, we're going to whoop your ass. Huh, man, it's almost like you could get rid of the cash, replace it with cotton, right? What would you call it then? Just wondering. Oh, if you don't deposit your certain amount of cotton, right? Maybe we should beat the shit out of you. Maybe we should put you in some type of confinement and make an example out of you to the rest of the so-called taxpayers, right? And so that's why I point this stuff out. I don't point this stuff out to be mean. I don't point this stuff out to be a jerk. I just point this stuff out to say, hey, I was sick and tired of it, and I came up with my own answer. And my own answer was, I'm not paying you anymore. Goodbye. I'm not living in your country anymore. Goodbye. Have a nice day. I don't care about you. You know, it's like, seriously, guys, I put everything that I could into that country, trying my hardest, but you're not worth it. And someone needs to say it. Someone needs to come out and say, hey, this is the best country in the world. I was like, it's the best country in the world to a point. To a point. And then past that point, you're worthless. So why are you sitting there, in the rat race? Oh, I just need to get that next new Beamer and I'm good. And then you get the Beamer. You're like, oh, all I need to do is get that 4-bedroom house instead of that 2-bedroom house, even though I just live by myself. And then I'll be good. It's like this is where I sort of insert that little, cut scene from Fight Club where he's just so enamored about getting his next catalog device to put in his cataloged apartment. And that is his purpose of being. Like I think in America, it is it is at the top of their list. Every politician, they're like, we want to dominate every sphere of what you see on a daily basis. So that all you think, everywhere you look, is politics. Everywhere you look, you just go, oh, am I a Republican? And can I say that out loud? Oh, am I a Democrat? And am I being a good enough activist for climate change today? It's like, dude, you're so full of shit. You're so full of it. And it's like when somebody sits there and goes, oh, no, this giant thing, once again, and let me point this out. It's like if someone's there screaming about climate change or they're screaming about Ukraine or they're screaming, it's like, notice how all these issues are things that are so far out of your ability to actually observe. Notice that. Like they know that the vast majority of you do not even have the ability, nor the inclination, nor the desire to go check out Ukraine. Just like you didn't want to go check out Bagram. Just like you didn't want to go check out Pakistan. Just like you didn't want to go check out Iraq. You didn't even want to sit down and learn their language. So just by the off chance you might actually meet some of these people, you could actually have an open conversation about what happened to them. You don't care about them. You only care about what's being spoon-fed to you via your media and your situation. So where I'm sitting is I'm just going, hey, congratulations, you got what you paid for, which was, the bottom of the barrel of nonsense. So like I said, as far as I'm concerned, as long as you guys keep paying your bills, I'm happy. Pay your bills. Pay your taxes. Have fun with it. I think we'd all have a lot better time if we lived in a world that didn't have to survive off of, monetary, concepts, monetary fiat currency systems. This whole idea of crypto, like, let's move into crypto. It's like, for what? What's the point? So we can buy new, cooler stuff. It's like, if I gave you the ability to make whatever cooler stuff you wanted, like whatever, do you think that the new echelon of the things that we would build, knowing whatever we build, would just give us that small clout, just that tiny little level of respect, like just simple respect points? Like if somebody's sitting out there and we all have our 3D printers and we all have our robots that do our stuff for us, and you tell your robots to build a flying machine, and you're like, oh, this is a real cool flying machine that can get up to this speed and do all this stuff. It's like, okay, and you're in your design, you build the F-35, blah blah blah. And I'm going, that's great, that is awesome. And I'm like, well, what are you gonna go with? Oh, I'm gonna go over here with an old little machine called the A10. That's what I'm gonna go with. And just watch people, oh, that thing's slow. And it's just like, yeah, I guess it is, huh? But at the end of the day, it's like, if that's what we're doing, we're building things just to compete and have fun for fun's sake. Remember that? Competition, play for just play's sake? That would be what it is. Hey, thanks for the follow, Helder Rose. I appreciate that. If you want to come in, like I said, I'm only on here for about an hour a day, and I'm about to get out of here. One thing I do every show is I come in here and I tell people, it's like, I'm not a streamer, I'm not a YouTuber, I'm not one of these. I call myself the original Twitcher. Twitcher to me is just, hey, I want to come out here and throw some ideas out there, and if it gets you to think, that's all a Twitcher does. A Twitcher just gets you to think, whether it be with gameplay or a different way to present something new and different and a new understanding to throw out a perspective that maybe just tweaks the way that you think about things a little bit. That's why I came to the politics section, because politics at the end of the day is a very hardcore game, no different than war is. And so anyway, I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. But before I do, I want to thank Helderose for the follow. And I'm going to play this outro with you in mind. Okay? So please enjoy. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Every day between 11 and 1 Eastern Standard Time. And as always, Merry Christmas, people. See you guys tomorrow.